Let's see if we live on YouTube right now. 0601 blah blah blah. All right, let's see if we good over here.
You stream through Studio?
Restream. It's dope. Yeah,
it's Restream, but I stream through what's it called? OBS.
Yep. I was getting into OBS and then it was like, yo, this joint is not working for me.
Oh, what?
Shout out to the chat. We're just gonna make sure the sound is good and then we're gonna get started today. Okay. There we go. Check. Check. 1 2 1 2. Hey, low key, bro. Like, so it's interesting because I get like Nutella notes off this coffee because this guy is cool. It's like the acidity is more like grapey, but like the chocolate, it's like an interesting acidic and kind of florally nutty coffee.
Is it a light roast?
Yeah, it's definitely. This was like 40 seconds after first crack. Okay, cool. We kind of florally. Yeah. Okay, sound is good. We good. We lit in here. Boom. All right, cool. We in here. Shout out to everybody who's watching. Let's get into it. Okay, yo, so welcome to the Coffee Black Podcast. My name is Bartholomew Jones. I'm over here with DJ Rmzi. Yeah. So we got connected. If you don't know, if you've never seen this before, my name is Bartholomew Jones. I'm an educator. I'm an MC. I'm a coffee nerd. Me and my wife started a Black-owned coffee company. Whole goal was to educate people about the Black history of coffee, which starts in Ethiopia. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, so the connection from Memphis to Ethiopia is a long flight. You know what I mean? You gotta go through a couple connections, but it's there. We're gonna get into that. And I think the perfect person to really get us into that before we get to Africa next month is DJ Rmzi, because my brother is Ethiopian, amazing DJ, hella dope shows. Y'all need to check my man's out because we finna plug everything. And this brother grew up in Memphis. So like, I mean, you literally are the intersection that we've been exploring for like 2 seasons, bro. So I'm hyped to get into this with you. Let's just start off, bro, with telling us about like kind of a little bit about what you got going and how would you kind of describe where coffee fits into all that just for you and your personal journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like in general, I grew up here in Memphis. Went to like middle school and high school here. Shout out White Station.
Yes.
But before that, I actually lived in DC, and I'm the son of 2 immigrants. I'm the first generation born here.
Okay.
Got 2 brothers, and coffee has always been a huge part of our lives, right? I think one thing we talked about yesterday was like the traditional coffee ceremony in Ethiopia. Yeah. That's just a part of everyday life. Every Friday, my mom and her sisters all get together at the crib. We always have like, if we have our grandma or we have the matriarch of the family, bless the coffee.
Bro, I'm trying to go. I'm trying to. What's the cookout like? What's the potluck situation? What you got to bring? Like, how do I bring mac and cheese? Like, what I gotta do? Okay.
You bring fruit.
Okay.
Like, honestly, bring anything. Bring yourself, of course. But just like
bring some watermelon.
Okay. Whatever you need.
Yeah. Say less.
Like,
okay.
It's
cool.
Seasonal, you know what I mean? We're trying to say ecological.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. Cool. I feel you. No out of season fruit.
No.
Hey, hold on. Shout out to the bill collectors.
But no, so like the process for those who don't know is that the coffee is roasted, ground, and made, in the same process, and then there's a blessing that happens. So as the coffee is roasted,
the spirituality of that.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, we come from different faith traditions, but it's interesting that, like, for me in decolonizing my faith, it's taken me back to Ethiopia and the origins of Christianity, and like in your faith, how deeply rooted it is. Absolutely. When you were talking about the transition between the Yemeni people and Ethiopia. So I'm like, it's fire, bro. I think like people miss the spiritual connection with coffee, and I think that's part of the conversation. We say like, what's missing, and like, why is coffee so, non-synchronous? That's not a word, but why doesn't it fit in a lot of Black communities? Why is it just like something that ends up gentrifying the community and so othering? I think it's because a lot of the Blackness has been removed, and a part of that Africanness is in the connection to the spiritual.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that we link on Fridays is because Friday is Juma. Like, it's the Friday prayer for Muslims our Sunday.
Wow.
And so we all go to prayer, and then we all go eat at somebody's house for lunch, and then there we have the coffee ceremony immediately
Bro, that's so dope because so a lot of my Hebrew I got a couple homies who are like Hebrew Israelites, right? And they've been really encouraging me, even though I am not. They've been like, "Yo, you need to check out the Sabbath, bro. Like, you looking at the Torah, you claim that tradition, you need to look at the Sabbath." I was like, "All right, we tried it. Me and wifey, like, we kind of tried Sabbath on and off our whole marriage, but like, we never picked a day. And when we started doing just Saturdays, bro, it revolutionized everything. My creativity, my workflow. Like, I'm not as strict about it as some people are, but like, trying to make that a rhythm in my life. And then like Fridays being the day before is like a day they've been teaching me like, yo, this is the day when everybody connects, people spend the night, like you cook food and everybody gets together, and like then Saturday we just vibing because we barbecued or whatever we did on it. I'm like, yo, so then it's just another connection. Like, exactly. That's crazy.
Exactly. No, I mean it's you know that centricity around community, right? Rather than I mean we get together to go out and party and that kind of stuff, but like how long does that last, right? Like, like the fact of the matter is like y'all may be partying until what you're like 30, 35, 40 maybe,
right?
But my family has been getting together all generations every Friday my whole life,
and it's like you said, bro, it's multi-generational, which is and shout out to Mr. Tony. He's one of the OGs who comes over to the anti-gentrification coffee club that we do in our neighborhood. And I'm just gonna record that in case sound does anything weird because I'm loving this conversation. But yeah, so one of the things he talks about is his family used to run nightclubs in North Memphis, and he's an amazing instrumentalist. And he loves to come and talk about philosophy and esotericism or whatever he be talking about. He just come in and you gotta say something deep when Mr. Tony come in, so we know what's up. And he's like hella into espresso, which is I have this interesting relationship with espresso, but like I think it's so interesting because he talks about how one of the things he said when he found out about us was like, I think it's so fascinating to put a coffee shop in a black community that's black owned. I mean, we have gentrified coffee shops, and we don't acknowledge them. The only Christopher we acknowledge is Wallace. You feel me? So it's like when we get into that, it's like he said, most of the time when black people congregate, the type of drugs we use to stimulate ourselves are downers. You know what I mean? We're taking alcohol, which is a depressant. But he was like, what would happen to our community structurally from like an urban design perspective or just from a cultural economic perspective if we use stimulants? And there's this whole piece that Joe Rogan just did with some brother, I forget the name, somebody tell me in the comments about how coffee plays such a critical role in the development of Middle Eastern and East African culture as opposed to what was happening in Europe, who most of their work culture revolved around beer, which was a depressant, and how like that the presence of coffee may have been a part of the spark for all the mathematical and scientific innovations that happened much earlier than in other parts of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you talk about like stimulants versus depressants. Like, khat is another thing that is like really
So break that down for the people because if the homies watching this down know they think we talking about cat dog. You know what I mean? Break it down. What you talking about?
So khat is like a cousin. It's like a cousin to the cacao leaf, and so you chew it and it's like a stimulant and it encourages you to like have conversation. Some people do it during college and stuff to like work, right?
So when my man said the cacao, he talking about crack. All right, you talking about crack. All right, we're not talking about cocoa beans right now. We talking cacao as in the cocoa that Miley Cyrus. You feel me? Yeah, that white.
That OT Genesis.
Yes, exactly. Right.
But it's different, right? I think there's so many like there's so many different attitudes towards it, right? Like it's the same with marijuana in our communities, right? Like here, in the black community, generally speaking, nobody's gonna think anything twice.
Right, for sure, right? Especially in the hip hop setting.
Exactly.
Which I want to get into because I know you heavy into music.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. But then like khat in Ethiopia is similar, right? It's like if some people don't like it and vilify it in the community, others are like, this is what I do every day.
Well, you were talking about the exports, right? Like when I learned about Ethiopia, it was like, yo, 3 biggest exports is honey, flowers, coffee. I don't know what the order is. You know what I mean? But you actually put me on game. Like that's just with the legal market.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the other market?
Yeah, khat, again, this is like a huge market, right? Like you can see that. So what's interesting about that is like the tradition around khat and coffee creates the same cultural setting in Yemen as it does in Ethiopia. The region that I'm from specifically, it's in Oromia or close to Oromia is Harar, right? Harar and Yemen have a close relationship because they're connected from the first Hajj, the first transition from Mecca to Medina in Islam. And so when they were sent over there, you know, they started this like trade between Yemen and this region of Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And so now if you go to like weddings in Yemen and you go to weddings in Ethiopia, they're the same. They're
Wow.
like exactly the same. Like people still intermarry between the communities. Like we consider ourselves the same people.
Yeah.
Even though we're spanning a sea, you know what I mean? Right. And so I think as you said, right, there's something to be said about building a cultural tradition, right, that you know that is something that uplifts and that stimulates. Like we should be discussing all the things that are happening in our community instead of running away from them.
Yeah.
Right. Bypassing ourselves and not thinking about them.
Yeah, man. And I think not thinking, I think, is the piece that, you know, the beautiful piece about one of the cultural benefits I think that coffee has to offer to Black communities is it creates space for dialogue, which I think is a very similar benefit to hip hop. I think at its best, the cipher creates space for dialogue, which is very different than kind of the didactic, like cultural conversations that can happen outside of those things, because it's very much so like one way. Now, I've never been to an Ethiopian coffee ceremony, so like, but I've read about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I've always wanted to, right? So it's like when I read it and when I read about it and I see it, like, and I'm kind of holding off going until I'm with somebody I know, because I don't want to just pull up to a restaurant and be there and it's weird. You know, I'm not gonna try to tap in. So it's like, but I know we'll go when we go to Africa, if not before. You know what I mean? So like, I was thinking, like, what is the process as far as dialogue goes?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, how does it kind of, what's the movement? Is it circular? Is it linear? Like, how does it move?
So I think, like, you know, Ethiopians are loud people, right? Like,
okay.
You know, we are. I will say that. Some are like.
I mean, you Black.
Exactly.
It makes sense. Exactly. I don't know a lot of Yo, Dirty Red, what up, family? Shout out to him for being in the chat. Hey, if you're in the chat, let us know what's up. But yeah, if you're, I don't know a lot of quiet Black cultures, Caribbean, like Central American, South American, or on the continent, or in America. Maybe Black Canadians are quiet, like, but based off of like what I see in Toronto, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, off with your head top, boy. Like, whatever they be saying. You know what I mean? So it's loud. So does it start off loud or?
So I think the reason I bring that up is because I think in any Black community you have to have courage to be part of the conversation, right? Like you're not gonna be sitting on the side just like, oh, I'm gonna be part of the conversation because somebody's gonna call on me. Like you gotta be out here like, this is how I feel. And then people are just super strong, have strong opinions, right? And so that's part of it. But I think the way that it starts is by so we roast the coffee first, and in the process of roasting the coffee,
and men or women roasting?
Women roast the coffee.
Okay, yeah, right. Just so the people know, this is a matriarchal space, correct? Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Like,
the matriarch pours, and then the eldest matriarch of the family is the one who blesses like the whole ceremony, right? Like makes the prayers, etc.
Crazy.
And so one of the things that's really interesting is during the roasting process, once the beans are basically roasted, the roasting beans, like the whole pan is basically taken around, and everybody's supposed to waft the smell of the roasting beans.
Wow.
And that begins the dialogue, right?
Okay.
Everybody's just like, oh, dang. Like,
so that starts the cipher.
Yeah.
Is when. So question, what shape this is a weird question, but like I was a teacher for 10 years, so like we have to think about what shape I'm going to put my desk in, and then what are the implications that this has on this little micro community. So and then as a rapper, I think about shapes a lot too, because you know ciphers and like all of that spacing matters when you're planning to interact with people or create an experience. What shape are people sitting in? Like, what's the?
So usually it depends, right? If this is a situation where there's like a hotel or like a restaurant or something, there's probably like one central space that person is effectively serving from, and then there's a bunch of seats around. There's the jebeda, right? Which is the like traditional Ethiopian
the first pour over,
right? Exactly. And then people just sit around, right? Like in kind of a semicircle. But then, like in my culture specifically in Harar, there's like these rooms that are basically set up in like concentric circles, effectively at different levels.
Sheesh.
So there's like on the top level you'll have like, you know, the eldest males kind of chilling there.
Yeah.
Right. And there is a separation between men and female, men and women in these spaces, right? But then you'll have like, you know, just kind of like as people come into the space, they just kind of fill up the rest. So a lot of semicircles, a lot of circles, sometimes different levels.
That's crazy. So like we've been doing this thing called a coffee cipher. Which I'm like, if I'm going to introduce coffee to my community culturally, We're not talking about from an economic perspective or even from a shop perspective, but if I want this to live in a space. By the way, we're drinking some Haitian coffee right now. Shout out to Jave Coffee. My wife just roasted this joint. Shout out to everybody in Haiti. We're doing this in honor. It's our libation that I just poured out for the people that's going through. I don't even know where they got, like, where you get a wit from. You've been in the Indiana Jones movie. We need to go get into that. I mean, we can, but like, yeah, drinking is in honor of them, and thinking about like if I want these cultural practices or these rituals to live, or to like, if we're talking about Ethiopian culture, coffee culture as the sample from which the diaspora can recontextualize their relationship with coffee, can decolonize their relationship with coffee, and learn what a Black coffee culture could look like. That how you got to go to Ethiopia, and if we're learning that, I think the shapes of circles and like just it lends itself towards dialogue, circular dialogue versus dialectical dialogue, or didactic dialogue.
I think we are all remixes, right?
Ooh, hold up. You're going to have to let that breathe. My man just dropped bars. Say that again. You got to let that breathe.
I think we are all remixes.
Wow.
I'm Ethiopian, right? But in Ethiopia, I'm considered American. And in America, I'm considered Ethiopian, right?
Wow.
And like even yourself, you're trying to recreate or recraft your relationship with your faith, right? Like as black Americans, or just Black people in general, like Black consciousness, right? Both American Black consciousness and this concept of Afropolitanism, right? Which is like the holistic African identity.
Wow.
Those things must necessarily be mixed because our country is that mixing pot, right?
Wow.
If you don't remix yourself, if you don't adapt, then you're gonna be lost out, or some part of that Blackness I think is missing.
Bro,
you know what I mean?
And this is the first time in a long time where I think even this kind of dialogue can happen. Mm-hmm. I was thinking, me and my mentor, shout out to Thomas Egler, we were talking about music when I was back in college, and how genres don't really exist anymore, or we're starting not to. This is like 2010, right? So this is like I'm listening to people like Subtract and Thundercat's first project, and like Kendrick on Section 80, and like even some of early Macklemore and stuff, and like how like this is not, this is like, is this really hip hop at this point? Because there's so much jazz, there's so much soul, there's so much electronic. Tyron and A.L. Mari, a lot of the artists, like, it's like people are not really, hip hop isn't even necessarily regional anymore. It's not like I make the music of my ancestors because someone taught me. Like, you go on the internet and you find what you resonate with.
But I think,
what I mean?
I think that always existed.
Yeah.
I think the fact that now we can see all that and there's like transparency towards it gives us that reduces the regionality of it. That region can now exist in an ethereal plane.
It's virtual.
Exactly.
It's a virtual,
right?
It's a virtual tribe or a virtual region. And so I think when it comes to what we're gonna sample from to chop up, then to like spit our present reality over, right? And I'm even to project the future, because we talk about this idea of like Black coffee being Afrofuturism, in the sense that like we're reimagining what the Black relationship with this good can look like, and in doing that, you're doing something that doesn't exist presently. And I think hip hop in and of itself is Afrofuturist in some ways, because like it's a weird interplay between taking from the past, contextualizing in the present, and then the things that like folks be rapping about, they don't be rapping about. You ain't got no bands right now. You know what I mean? Like, but you're projecting your desired future over a recontextualization in the present of the past of things. It's just like a weird space. It's a virtual thing. And I think part of the internet has a part of that. But like in coffee right now, I see a lot of Black communities trying to reorganize their relationship with coffee, and there's an economic driver for that, because there's a lack of consumption at origin, right? Which is like, so the question is, why don't Black people at origin want to drink coffee? And a lot of it has to do with like, people being anglicized with like who colonized you, right? But I think also it has to do with the fact that you haven't seen, or a lot of people don't know, that this thing is Black and therefore can be Black. So if you don't have the vocabulary with which to imagine yourself in something, then you won't ever imagine yourself in it.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
No, I think there's a challenge, especially here in Memphis, man. Like growing up, even for myself, like when I went to New York, it was mind melting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. Escaping the hood is so, bro. The first time I went to Chicago or New York or California or leaving the country, even like we just went to the Caribbean for like gospel choir tour. But that joint, like I was like St. Martin was. I was like, yo, it was just different. You know what I mean?
No, I think that like I don't know, you know, like there's some better way to introduce communities to that practice and introduce communities to like each other and how we can all center together and make coffee central to that.
Yeah,
right?
bro.
You know, I think that it's a win-win, right? It's like we reclaim coffee and the narratives around coffee, and we get an opportunity to continue to grow the best parts of our community.
Yeah,
because we're actually focused on them.
Yeah, bro. And I think too, in doing that, then you move from the cultural to the economic. And so I guess this is a good time to make this announcement. Like I was supposed to speak at SCA this year. They invited us to come, and we're so generous to also pay for 10 of the homies who we've been doing these coffee clubs with, these meetings with, these ciphers with, to come as well. They cover lodging, as well as tickets for them. But because of everything going on right now in New Orleans, we're not going. But just to give a preview, you know, we hope to go next year. SCA, you want to invite us back out? I know it's in Boston, so we're gonna have to figure out flights, but let's talk. You know what I mean? But the gist of my talk that I was gonna do is moving from tokenism to ownership. And I think that when a lot of industries think about Black people and including Black people, or more importantly, trying to address the reasons for why Black people aren't included in the first place, which is mostly due to raping and pillaging, right? The theft of Black cultural intellectual property. Or literal property, such as my ancestors, we start thinking about ideas such as hiring. And I think when we talk about hiring, we are missing the point. When your solution to a problem is to make someone an employee, when with you miss the root of the issue, which is ownership and self-realization, right? Self-actualization, right? To self-determinism. You're missing that, right? And so I think that we need to move beyond. There are kind of three pillars in my head. The first pillar is like, well, let's get Black people hired in white-owned spaces, which is representation, right? Which is useful. It's not bad, right? But I think if you move to the second pillar, you get the first one automatically, which is Black people in Black-owned spaces, and putting resources towards that, right? So not just initiatives where we're trying to hire one person, two people, a scholarship, but we're actually moving towards like in investing and giving startup capital and resources and re-startup capital, because we're not going to act like most businesses don't succeed first time round. Most business people, you need 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So, but if you're Black, you gotta get you only get one shot. Do not, you know what I mean?
I failed 4 times.
That's what I'm saying, bro. So like, you need that generational wealth, or somebody. You need some type of cushion to be able to say, if it don't work, let's figure out why, and then go try again and again. So I don't know what that resource looks like, but you need that. But then that's still economic. But I think the most important thing is if you give Black people space to interact with these things on their own terms in communities outside of the economic conversation, which I think you see naturally, indigenously in Ethiopia, then what happened is Black people freak that. They freak everything they get, and they're gonna innovate, bro. And when Black people innovate, everybody benefits. When Black people innovate, everybody gonna eat. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it just happens. You know what I mean? So then when those Black people innovate, then they will be hired, but not as employees, but as consultants, which you can talk about what that reality is like, because they did something new and you want that. You feel me? So that's why I think if we focus on these other two pillars, you get that. But that's my little spiel. You know, catch me at SCA next year, hopefully, and you can get more. But I think that idea requires some type of primary source, right? To understand how it could look. It'll look different in every community, but to have pieces from which to sample, we got to have a better understanding of what the OGs have done. And I think the Ethiopian people are like, y'all the OGs. And you live in that intersection, not just of the past, but like culture now. You know what I mean?
I think one of the things that you'll see in Ethiopia, or what I've experienced, a change in Ethiopia, is lately. So the first time I went to Ethiopia was 2005. No, sorry, 1995, when I was like super young, and I went in 2005. Something just started. There's a chain in Ethiopia now, in Addis now, called Kaldi's Coffee.
Yeah,
and that's like just kind of like Starbucks. But now there's
the logo. The logo point was hilarious. But what's the innovation?
It is
right. They're gonna freak it. It's like we doing this our way.
One of the things that's really interesting now is the proliferation of like smaller, really boutique coffee shops that are happening in Ethiopia.
Yeah,
and they're like standing room only. Right, small cups. They just it's all made to order. Right, it's
the small cups. I know we're going long right now, but like there's so much in like the idea of you don't get a big 24-gallon cup of coffee. Like that's just not on the menu.
It's really confusing to me. Now, even in my current life, like I will only order an espresso.
Yeah.
Because that's it. Like if somebody actually made like, just a couple of ounces of coffee for me, 3 ounces of coffee, maybe
micro brews.
That's it. That's all I want. I don't
really my man micro dosing coffee right now.
Yeah,
I'm into it.
I'm into it. Because I just like I don't know, like people talk about, oh yeah, I need like 8 cups of coffee a day, blah blah blah. It's like if you only drink a couple of ounces of coffee and you space it out, it's just like it is something that like I don't know. As an Ethiopian, like everybody lives like that.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm just like, why? I don't know why y'all are just like, you don't have a cup of coffee.
Like, why do you have to get it all at? Why do you have to get it all now? Like, you could get the same amount spaced out in tiny cups with multiple people.
But I think that's an American thing. We want big toast.
Bro.
We want big wheels, bro. We want big everything.
Big 24s. Yeah. No. And I think part of that is a scarcity-based mindset. Yeah. Like, I think one thing that I've learned from a lot of African homies is, like, this fear of, I'm going to starve, or I don't even know if that's appropriate. The fear of I'm not going to be taken care of. I'm going to miss out. That fear is kind of like embedded in a lot of American individualist capitalistic culture, which says like it's this the flip side of rugged individualism, which is like if you do take care of yourself, you can have as much as you want. But if you don't, you're not going to get anything, and no one's going to help you. So I think that fear is based on this idea that so I don't rock with everything in the Nation of Islam or like the Yaqub myth or whatever, right? But I was looking into it in college because I was kind of frustrated with white American, and I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. One of the interesting things about that fictional idea of the myth of Yaqub is they're looking at the cultural implications of growing up in a cold climate without access to the plenty that is in Africa, which is like especially you look at like the heart of civilization, right? We're definitely looking at Ethiopia, and so like the interesting thing is like it just makes me wonder, like when you grow up without plenty, when you can't just go outside and get fruit, when you don't know, like if I don't have nowhere to stay, I can go to auntie or uncle or whoever, like I have a residential, familial, generational home to return to, like how that frames how you consume.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
The atomicity of the American household is like just appalling.
Bro, me and the homies be talking about that. Like, why are black families kicking out kids at 18? Like, why y'all? Like, why do we do that? You know what I mean? I just feel like that's part of decolonizing is like removing that. Like,
but I think it's a taboo, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea that you still with your parents, or that your grandma and you share a room or something like that.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. It's like, bro, like. This is what we have.
Yeah, bro.
Why are you trying to pretend like
this is what building wealth actually looks like?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This is what it actually looks like.
Yeah. I also think that that's totally incomprehensible by most white communities.
Yeah, no. I feel you.
Right.
And I think just the way European culture develops.
I'm talking about, current generations of white communities.
Yeah.
Certain generations of white communities do it the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
That like there's no one would challenge that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Everybody's living like that. You know what I mean? But
that's like now we're moving to like more of a Marxist critique, right? Where it's like now we're looking at were you poor or rich? Because generationally rich people don't think like that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But I think that
generationally poor middle class people are like, you got to get out, you got to go get your own because we don't have enough for you. Is the subtext?
Yeah.
If you stay here, we don't have enough for you.
Yeah.
But it's like then the flip thing is like most people would consider poor or areas of the world people would consider poor aren't living like that for black and brown people. They're like, kick it. We're gonna get something for you. You know what I mean?
When I was a kid, there were two things that I saw in Ethiopia that taught me about an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
One was when I was just walking down the streets in Diaspora, like my mom's town.
Yeah.
I just at the end of the day, once people are done selling corn, right? They've cooked. Yeah. It's just like a little, it's like.
What's the recipe on the corn?
Bro, just put that on the fire.
Okay.
That's it.
That's on gas. My dad is a big fan of like grilled corn.
Yeah. Literally there's just people who like, like blow not burn, but like cook and like blow corn into the street so you can smell it. You're like, damn,
I need that.
And if they don't sell their corn, they give it to everybody who's just around.
Wow.
Bruh.
Wow.
If you don't have any food, whatever, and I have extra and I didn't sell it, it comes to you. It's like, why would I think twice about it?
Why would I just throw it away just to spite you?
Bro, that food is one, valuable. Two, it's rough, and I think this is in Arabic as well. The word means wasteful, right? It's just like you can't like the word "sraf" is more than meaning wasteful. It's like a slight to like God. Like
That's wrong. But that you tapped into it. So my homie Ibrahim, who had a company called Aromo Coffee Beans, we connected when we first started the pod, and he was telling me he had this quote from the Aromo people, and he said, I had the quote. It's on a poster. Check it out on the website. He's like, to the Aromo people, like coffee is not just a drink you have to keep going or to get you going during the day, but it's connection with family, with nature, with God, with creation, with everything. And I was like, that idea of like being connected is so, and like being almost like divinely connected is such a foreign idea to American Western culture, because it's like, it's just, creation is just meant to be used, not to be participated in.
It's there's ownership of that, right?
Yeah.
That, like, you know, again, that it's without abundance, without the idea that there is value out there.
Yeah.
If you have value, you hold that value, because that value is scarce, right?
Yeah.
I think it's crazy. And the other story I was gonna say was just like, one time I bought some candy, right?
Yeah.
Getting like Jolly Ranchers and stuff when you were like, I was like, what, 10 years old?
Okay.
You know, it's like, you can't find that kind of candy. That's imported candy, bro.
Sheesh.
You know what I mean? So I got all this candy. I went out to the streets and I just saw this kid who was asking for money, right? And I was just like, all right, all I got is this candy. If I were a kid, I would want some candy. This kid took that one Jolly Rancher to his mom.
Wow.
There's the kid, another kid, and his mom. No, sorry. There's 3 kids and the mom. The mom took like a rock and split it into 3 equal pieces and gave it to the kids. Bro.
Yo,
one Jolly Rancher,
bro.
Y'all out here like, oh man, one Jolly Rancher falls down, it's just someone leaving right there.
Yeah, that's crazy. First off, shout out to Mom. She might be a mutant, because if she had the ability to break a Jolly, like, you ever tried to break hard candy, my G? That joint is like one large piece, 15 little speckles, and then a jagged edge. And I ain't talking about the music. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy. But no, I think that story is such a beautiful illustration, bro. And that's what we hope to learn when we go in October. Like, just to start that conversation of decolonizing our, not just approach to coffee, but to everything. You know, so like let's pivot, because I know we're 30 minutes in, and I'm gonna try to cut at 45 minutes. I generally suck at that if you've been listening to this podcast, but I want to talk to you about the idea of Ethiopian coffee culture as the sample and the connections between hip hop culture and its relationship. And we can talk about the interplay between like the call and response between our communities, even jazz and funk, and how those things, the interplay, and how those things influence each other, and then how those records became some of the most iconic samples for like hip hop songs. But I think also, and then how that is also paralleled or mirrored, and could be mirrored or instructional in how we look at hip hop, and how hip hop and coffee can be like related to each other in the between 2 communities, between African communities in general, particularly the African American and the Ethiopian. So like, I think you could touch that. So, and also touch about like what you're doing in music right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe for your idea, like where that thing can go and where that conversation can go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the relationship for me between Ethiopian music and like, I think it was just like this explosion during the 70s and 80s, right? Even like a little bit after the 60s of like cheaper technology. It's the same thing that's happening right now, right? Whenever like technology becomes cheaper and it gets in the hands of us, as you said, we flip it, right?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna freak the sample.
Absolutely. Like, so if you think about like, you know, Freddie Knuckles or Larry Hurt, Mr. Fingers, who lives here in Memphis, Tennessee, right? They created the electronic dance music scene. They created house music in the warehouse in Chicago.
Shout out to the fact that house music is black. We got marinated in that. We just dropped this project called Summer Jazz Sessions from like these coffee ciphers that we did at the shop all summer. And like a big inspiration for us was like upbeat, up-tempo music that's danceable, but that's not trap. Not that there's anything wrong with trap. Shout out to 3-6 and everybody, you know what I mean? But like just wanting to embrace and celebrate dance music and up-tempo plus 96 BPM plus music that's not, that there's just not going to be a hard snare in there.
Absolutely.
You feel me?
No, I'm telling you, like, you know, I love to live in the like 116 to like, honestly,
bro,
you know my favorite BPM?
Where you going right now?
My favorite BPM is 160.
Well, you wild right now, bro. My man said 160. We need some cut for that BPM. You know what I mean? Like, you need the cocoa leaves when you hit that BPM.
That's what I'm saying. That's the energy. Like, for me, it's either like incredibly sad, super down tempo music.
Yeah.
I'm talking about lower than 96. Let's chill in the 70s. That's where the
the 70s for me, bro.
Yeah.
All right, this is what happens when you get too like coffee and hip hop nerds. But 70 BPM is if I could pick a BPM for the rest of my life, it would be 70 BPM because you can do funk, soul, R&B, and trap music. At that, all you gotta do is decide: is it halftime or not? Like, is 70 BPM the halftime, and then we're really doing 140, or is it the whole time, and then we're doing some soul, some real funky, you know what I mean, Stacks music vibes. But back to what you're saying, like we did this joint. I don't even know what the BPM was, but doing it in a coffee shop was interesting because it was like up tempo, just kind of it just we were already drinking a stimulant, so it just lent itself towards that type of creativity, and then it lent me to like writing my raps for the first time.
But
as
also
a
here in Memphis, think about the dance culture here.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Juking and all this kind of stuff. You're not gonna be. You can't juke if you're like extra turned.
Oh no.
What you talking about?
Yeah.
How you go? All those jukers are sober.
Yeah, bro.
Then it's maybe a little bit.
Yep.
But like that's just to get the courage up. You know
what I mean, bro. Right? Yeah. Once you get in there, it's technical because you gonna break something.
Yeah.
Like them dudes be on the shout out to you know what I mean, Lil Buck and everybody who be on the ankles. You feel me? Because like I'd be like, yo, this right, y'all. We wasn't doing that when I like juking when I grew up was very like and it was not. The ballet element, I mean, shout out to the new ballet, the Memphis Ballet, and everybody who kind of like brought that wave in for like Young Buck. I want to say Lil Buck. That was Lil Buck, not Young Buck. Young Buck is a rapper. Yeah. But Lil Buck was a big part of that. And like, but just that fusion, bro, it's so beautiful, and I think it speaks to what happens when Black culture, Black hood culture touches the diaspora. Because now I see videos where people are juking in Africa. And I'm like,
you seen the South Korean videos?
Bro, it flips my mind, and I think that conversation leads to a whole different layer of creativity that I'm excited to see happen. I think coffee can stimulate that. You know what I mean? Like, so tell us a little bit for just the people who are watching. Like, tell us about what you're doing musically. What's happening? Where can people tap into everything you're doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I go by DJ Rmzi. You can find me at Rmzi.
Yeah.
And then I have a radio station. I have a radio show on the new radio station WYXR
99.7. That's crazy.
Shout out everybody.
My man literally on the radio right now. You know this was every kid in the hood's dream, bro.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, bro. Like we was all like one day I'll be on the radio, mama, and you on there every day.
Bro, I was literally just like listening like to my speaker. Like you have the like boom box. You put it real low so your mom can't hear it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Little mama would whisper in your ear. Like you memorize all the words.
Yes. Yeah.
But that was me listening to 107.1 back in the day, 97.1 like after hours stuff.
Wow,
and it was
bro.
my dream. I was like, yo, I need this.
Wow.
So shout out to JB, shout out to Robbie, shout out to everybody involved with WYXR.
Yeah, bro. And shout out to Omer for connecting us, bro.
That's great. Yeah,
like he been coming to the coffee club for a minute. It's a really dope community. But yeah, man. So like you're what would be you're doing that, and then you're kind of in between. You're not just in Memphis, right?
Yep. So I live half the time in New York and half the time in Memphis. I'm bi-coastal.
Crazy.
East Coast and the Mississippi Coast.
Yeah. Bro, say I buy winning. I win here. I win there. That's dope. Okay, and I love that, bro. Like, so what's kind of the bent of the type of, because you're not doing. We were talking about this, baristas are kind of like, or DJs are kind of like baristas in that there are two types generally. There's the I'll give you whatever makes you happy type, and then there's the let me put you on type.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like I got this secret. You had an anaerobic in the. You won't know about this. Let me put you on, and then there's the like whatever you want, whipped cream, caramels, or whatever is gonna make you happy.
It's so interesting. You used to be talking about second wave coffee, right?
Yep.
I don't want to give you cold brew.
Yep.
I'm not trying to make you
a
frap.
Nope. And shout out to everybody who's doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with it.
I'm a nerd, so I naturally lean towards the nerdy, the particular, the like, the divergent. You know what I mean? But I
just think that like that to me, it's like a lot of what I saw when I was in Asia. I lived in Japan for a little while. Right?
Yeah.
And in Japan, like the way that they go about coffee, the purity, the like energy around that. Like I want to be wowed. I want to be surprised. I want something new.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to come and get whatever kind of fix. fully
It's not just a drug to you. It's a cuisine.
Exactly.
It's you're a connoisseur.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, of course I want coffee, but I'm not gonna drink instant coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you, bro. And I think I want to know about. Man, there's so much because okay, as a young black coffee nerd, I think inevitably you run into the point to where you're talking to someone else black about coffee, and they're like, "What is this weird hipstery-ish you putting in my face right now?" Because I just want Folgers or I just want whatever, and that may not happen in your family because y'all been on the good stuff. You know what I mean? But like, there's a level even where I'm curious to know. Like when you come with if you're pour overs or I'm only doing this SL28 from Kenya or I'm whatever I'm doing this new Yeminia coffee from the secret like do you ever get a reaction where people are like you doing too much?
I'm just saying like what context are you coming to me where I'm doing the most?
Yeah.
If you're coming in the morning on your way to work and you just need whatever you need, like get that. That's not me.
Yeah.
Right? If you're coming to my shop, you sit down.
Yeah,
don't
catch
open
your
your
vibe.
Laptop.
Yep.
Chill with me.
No, that's what it is, bro. I mean, you peep the vibes at the club. It's like it's family, it's loud, it's you know what I mean. Like somebody jacked the speaker, so I don't know what the speaker is, but like it's gonna be a vibe generally. So like, do you ever get people who are like even in your family where like you're like you kind of doing too much with that, like with this pour over right now?
I mean, what's funny is that we were talking about this yesterday. Like my mom, right? Like they have their espresso machine. They live by it. They live and die by it, right?
Yeah.
My mom makes a Japanese coffee whenever we do the coffee ceremony.
Yeah.
But like, if I pull out all these like extra things, I'm weighing stuff, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So even in my community,
it's like, "Are you a drug addict? What's going on?" Like, you got the Pyrex out right now, like,
we whip it work, but like that's a little foreign, right, to them, right?
Yeah.
But I think that they're still willing to like try it out, right?
For sure.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want anybody pulling up in a rush.
Yeah.
Because that's not what this is.
Right. Yeah, man.
It's not fast food.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. Come on, bro. That's a bar. Beyond fast food coffee. That's somebody's TED Talk. That's dope, bro. And I think that makes so much sense when you think about like the context of like the question of what is this?
Yeah.
Like what is this coffee? And I think that's the question as a company we're trying to navigate. What is this, and how do we orient ourselves to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Absolutely. And I think as Black people and all the diversity that's in the diaspora, that's a unique question when you're presented coffee either in the form or from the hands of someone who's gentrifying you in your space or colonizing you in your space. Like even a lot of the rest of the continent got coffee, even though coffee grows indigenously in the wild. There's like over 125 different species of coffee, and they're all native to Africa, right? It's the only continent where you can find them just, I'm outside. And it's not just East Africa, like Robusta, which is Cafe Canifera, or Cafe Stanifila. Shout out to the homie Steven from TCE who put me on, which is like, people are researching that. It's literally a black cherry, and it grows in the wild. I believe in the Congo, Ivory Coast, and Cameroon, a couple other places. Wild coffee in West Africa. Like it's not culture, but I mean, do you think about the genetic diversity in the plants that are available? Like it's just not possible for people to have harvested everything and found a use for it. But it grows in the wild. But a lot of times, people's first relationship with it in communities was from someone planting it and telling you, grow this as a cash crop or we'll kill you. And so, like my Rwandan homies were telling me, shout out to homie Gatson, he was like, bro, growing up, I grew up on a coffee farm, and I would get my behind beat if I was caught even tasting a coffee cherry. Yeah, bro. He was like, my dad beat the mess out of me. And I did it every summer. He was like, I did it every summer. Shout out to Gas for being a bad little black kid. But he was like, every summer I was like I would eat it when we had to harvest it, and I would always get my behind beat because I have to sell this. Like, we not paying the light bill. We not eating food if I don't sell this.
It's like quinoa in South America, right?
Yeah, bro.
People grow quinoa and then don't eat it.
Yeah. And so there's no, when you think about what that does to the creative, we talk about the creativity of Black people, when you're not allowed to consume something, then you're not allowed to really imagine around it, and then therefore you don't explore the possibilities either economically, creatively, culturally around that. It's just harvest it, sell it, move on, and it creates trauma. So one of my homies from Burundi was telling me, like, for a lot of the Burundi people, when they got coffee like it, you could get killed if you were found drinking coffee. during colonial
Oh,
times.
wow.
And so he was like, culturally, there's animosity to her. Like, I don't want my Trinidadian homies. But she was telling me, like, yo, like, nobody in my generation wants to grow coffee because we saw our grandparents have terrible lives doing this. And it's like, it's like, so I was like, I made the translation. It's like me as a Black American, somebody being like, yo, you should engage in the cultural practice of your ancestor. Go pick some cotton. You guys used to run that industry. I was like, I don't even want to see a cotton plant. I don't want to see a picture of a cotton plant. It's traumatizing. So like we have to reorient our relationship. And I think there's such a beautiful picture in the Ethiopian people and the way you all have like created this dope thing. Last question that I got, and then anything you want to say, any questions or comments in the chat. What questions do you have for, or what ideas do you have? Where do you see kind of like the future of this thing going? You know what I mean? Like we talk about Black coffee being Afrofuturism, thinking about the future of, I just listened to a selection playlist about like Afrobeat in East Africa, and it was I hadn't even, the ideas being presented musically were like, wow. You told me a lot of that stuff comes from Kenya, but like if anybody's tapped into what the future of the music scene is like in Ethiopia, is you, bro. And if there's a way coffee plays into that too, I'm curious. But like, what are your thoughts on what the future of this thing could look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think here, right, like, I love what y'all are up to, right? The idea of anti-gentrification of coffee shops, because the coffee shops are the vanguard of gentrification.
No, for real, right? Bro. We said like one of the four horsemen of the gentrification apocalypse. You got like Whole Foods, craft breweries, white ladies walking dogs, and coffee shops. Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's so crazy to me, right? But I think we have to morph what the coffee shop means, right? Again, like remove this fast food element from the equation, right? Like why do we treat you know, these places where you just walk in and like time how long it takes for you to walk out as like the
looking at your Apple Watch, like
exactly. It's just like, oh man, this barista's taking their time because they're talking to like some old lady or something like that. Like that you know what I mean? I don't know. For me, it's just like I really want to see rest, and it's crazy to say rest and a stimulant at the same time. You know what I mean?
No, but that's real though. I drink coffee to unwind, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I drink it to meditate.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
I want people to be like, oh, I can get a respite from like all of this nonsense happening around me. By going to a coffee shop. And just zoning out and partying.
Yeah,
right?
Bro.
Like, cause it's not.
And a vibe is an interesting type, because it's like vibration obviously means there is life.
Yeah.
When molecules are vibrating, they're alive. When they stop vibrating, they're not. But then like a vibe is also chill. It's active and chill at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's happening.
I think a vibe is an active thing. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's also a very like, I don't know. It's still.
It's like
I don't.
A vibe doesn't happen when nothing at all is happening.
Yep. No, it doesn't.
Right. A vibe is definitely happening when people put effort into the experience.
Yeah. Vibe is definitely like an experience, but it's like a mode of being.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That's like it's like a state. Like you got different states of water. Like it's like vibe. A vibe is like you pick one and you stay in that state.
Sleeping, vibing.
Yeah, bro. It's like water, gas, like ice. It's like you're picking one and you're moving. It's like it's crazy. So continue.
Fire. I mean, I just think like turning coffee spaces into spaces of rest, right? Like, and you know, I think that there's like this secularization of like American culture that has obviously been happening for so long, but like a place where we can like, you know, not necessarily be non-secular per se, but to like all engage in our own faith traditions because they are compatible, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like I can bow my head, and if you say a prayer, I can say Amen. You say Amen.
Yeah, bro. No, I saw you refer to that earlier. Salam alaikum, bro. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then I think the there's a very real reality, and you talked about this. You can talk more about how historically that it's not that communities all said, I don't care what I believe, because that would be to demean the sacredness of our faith practices and like the very real important conversations to have about what it means to be human and have a relationship with the divine. But I think that the coexistingness in not in like the PC on the back of some white lady who has BLM on her. I'm not into that. But like on the like, you are my fellow human. You're my neighbor, and there's care and love towards you. And like our disagreements are not excess for violence, but like we celebrate our commonality while honoring the differences. And I think that like that is seen even in Ethiopia, bro. Like the reality of that. Can you speak to that too?
Yeah. I mean, I had some of these records, right? And I was talking about kind of the coexistence of like religious communities in Ethiopia. Like there's Muslims, Jews, Christians. I mean, obviously there's a strong Christian tradition, faith tradition, but like the West, as they teach you about Ethiopia, they just say it's a Christian island in the region.
Yeah.
Which is a total farce, right?
And it took going through two degrees for me to hear that.
Yeah.
Because all I heard was Christianity was Calvin and Zwingli and Martin Luther, and all of them dudes is definitely very white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that like when you talk about the history of like all these religions interacting, we think about like people think about the Crusades, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's like the most violent instance of interaction between these religions.
Yeah.
Right?
Or they think about 9/11. And they're like, that doc just came out on Netflix too.
Yeah.
There's a couple pieces.
Yeah.
But that's like a very politicized.
I think that's just focusing on the differences and the challenges between our faith traditions in terms of how they express power dynamics, right?
Yeah.
In space. I think we don't look at places like Baghdad, right, back in the day when it was like a cultural center.
Yeah.
Like
for discourse.
Yeah. Exactly.
And what role did coffee play even in those communities?
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. As like coffee. Like the salon, right? The concept of a salon was something that like very much existed for a long time before we think about the like Renaissance or whatever 16th century like European consciousness that like people want to like relate themselves to or hearken to. Like we've been doing that forever.
Yeah, bro.
What are you talking about?
This is literally what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
that's real. That's crazy.
It's built into
this is deja vu right now. This is like ancestral deja vu right now.
Your ancestor had coffee some time ago.
Yeah, it's wild. Bro, that's crazy. Even like I got some homies who have left Protestantism there in Eastern Orthodoxy to explore the relationship with like with Christianity through learning about the Egyptian church and the Ethiopian church and the Nubian church and like the them thinking about my homie thinking about the relationship of like ancestors and how it's actually kind of synonymous with it from an Orthodox perspective because you're thinking about not ancestors but saints.
Yeah.
Many of which like when I think about my relationship, thinking about my grandparents, my great grandparents, and like them being in heaven and communicable within our context is just a very African idea, and it's a very non-Western way of thinking about it, very non-Protestant way of thinking about it. And I'm just curious, bro. Like, there's so much to explore here. Like, so tell us about like these records and how they kind of relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, you have these. So there's this series called Ethiopeaks.
Okay,
you kind of see it, right? And it's like a series of like. It must have 40 volumes or something like that.
Wow.
It's like mad volumes of like full records. Sometimes it's like double or triple LPs.
Wow.
This is a series of 45s that they released. And these are all like, classics of the Ethiopian tradition, which generally, I think, detail or really show off Christian Ethiopian culture.
Wow.
Right? Because of the power dynamics in the country, or in the country at the time.
Yeah.
I think the same thing with like, think about Christianity and art, right, and how like it was fueled through the church, right, before and stuff like that. But you can still see the diversity in these communities, even though like there was like so many different kind of like challenges in the power structure with regard to like the way that religion, kind of like expressed itself in Ethiopia. So you have Muslim singers, from Oromo, you have Amara, like Christian singers and stuff like that. But like everybody's a family. They all know each other's songs. They all play together. They all are all released together because like that Ethiopia is a place where that could happen.
Yeah, right? Bro. That's like that idea of could happen is so unique. Like I don't know what it was like the first time you saw Black Panther, but like this idea of like Wakanda as an African relationship that could happen. I think it's something that was honestly a big part of the inspiration for Coffee Black. As like, what could it look like? And I think looking at Ethiopia is like a very real reality historically of what could have happened, what did happen, and could happen again. Is beautiful, bro.
I think there's a new movement called Afropolitanism. Right.
So break that down because you mentioned that earlier, and I'm a big fan of saying, "Wait, I don't know what that is." Like that's honestly how I learned anything in coffee. Was I was at shops and they said, "Yeah, bro, I'm just pulling the Spro right now. I'm about to do a pre-infusion." I'm like, "I don't know what any of that is. Please explain it." And you only got to explain it to me once. But if I don't know, I'm going to ask. That's how I learned coming from the hood. Was like, if I don't know, I'm not ashamed for not knowing. I'm ashamed if I don't ask you. So what is that? What is that?
Afropolitanism is like a Afrofuturist concept, I would say.
Yeah.
That is looking to like reclaim the idea of oneness of identity in Africa, right? Because I think that there's a challenge with that, right? Because the classic problem in here is like, oh, Africa, you from Africa? It's like one country.
Yep.
Right, and like it's so degrading to think that, right?
Yeah, I remember my grandmother, bro. There's a picture of her there. Shout out to Mama Jessie. One of my uncles changed his name in the whole '80s to like Ajanaku. He joined the, if you're familiar, it's like basically a Pan-African tribe. Started in the African Americas in the '80s, and I remember he changed his name from Clarence Jr. And I don't remember, I wasn't born, but my father told me about how when he changed his name to Clarence Jr., like my grandmother being like, "We ain't African." Yeah, and she heard when she's saying African, she means it derogatorily because she's thinking about Tarzan. And that's the only context for Africanism that she's seen. She doesn't know about the history of coffee, even though she drinks coffee every day. She doesn't know that comes from Ethiopia and Yemen. She doesn't know about the music, the gospel music she's singing at church, at Progressive Baptist Church, that's rooted in traditions from West Africa. She doesn't know any of that, but she knows what someone told me about Africa. You know what I mean?
No, we're recontextualizing that for ourselves.
It's reclaiming the narrative.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So with this Afropolitanism, I think that like it is specifically valid or like kind of appropriate for diaspora kids, right? Like myself, right? Like I'm part of the diaspora insofar as I'm first generation here in America, and I never like I will always have a dual identity. Like what I said at the beginning, in America I'm Ethiopian, in Ethiopia I'm American, right? But in Afropolitanism, I think includes the blackness, like the global blackness of the South, the Americas as a whole, right? South America, the American blackness, right? Like these are all things that are that can be part of Afropolitanism, right? And as we create a new Black identity, we need to realize and accept and integrate all the nuance of what Black identity means globally. Because we're everywhere now, right? What do you mean? How can we say like
there's no way to get away from it?
Yeah, like people, even in my own family, right? You know what I mean? They're like, oh, you gotta make sure you remain African. I'm like, what do you mean? Like I'm Black. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a very this generation concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I think it's a novel idea in that it's new.
Yeah,
and I think that this conversation couldn't happen 20 years ago.
No,
you know what I mean? Like even beautiful thing like Jackie Robinson, a lot of people don't know, he started a coffee company. My homie Steven Zinnerman put me on. I learned a lot from Steven. He's supposed to go with us to Africa, but the passport has been halted. So, and we also need to raise more money for his ticket. So if you're listening, feel free to donate for my brother's ticket on the GoFundMe. But yeah, it was like he taught me so much, and like their family now, his children and grandchildren run coffee farms in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Kenya. And like even then, like when they moved there, right? Like thinking about that conversation never became a cultural conversation. It never became a part of cultural identity. It just was something that, even though this person meant so much to the culture, like as a teacher, I had to teach about Jackie Robinson every year. You know what I mean? But that part of the story didn't get told. The connection to the homeland, to the motherland, never got told. And we want to bring those stories out. And I think coffee is a great way to do that. And I think hip hop is a great medium to bring those stories out. Do you listen to Blitz the Ambassador? Ghanaian dude. One of my favorite artists, and started this musical conversation for me because he like made music like James Brown. So he had like a full live band, but he like had a very East Coast way of rapping. You think about like very Wu-Tang vibes. You know what I mean? But he was like crazy dope. And he had a project called Afropolitan that he just dropped. And the project that got me hip was Native Son. But yeah, he had a project that just dropped called Afropolitan. He actually recently collabed with I Make Mad Beats, who they did this visual for Netflix, and one of I Make Mad Beats pieces was like part of the soundtrack for that. And there's the connections there too. I don't even want to get into like what's gonna happen in Orange Mound next year and like the international conversation that coffee can bring through hip hop. But like, bro, when I think about this, I was just looking this up. Like, even there's some hip hop songs like that have sampled Ethiopian jazz. And I think it's emblematic of the call and response that can make way for the future.
As We Enter by Nas and Damian.
Yeah, bro.
It sampled. I forgot it was Mulatto Stuckhead, but
no, that's it.
Is it Joel? I forgot which name is it.
I got the list right here, bro. So you know what I mean, like.
But I have that actually on my I have that vinyl. If you guys, I don't know if anybody's around.
Tigele Tizeta.
Yeah, Tizeta.
Yeah, there we go.
Tizeta. Do you know what Tizeta means?
Nah, I don't know what that means.
So Tizeta or Tizita is like a slow cadence. It's like effectively like an Ethiopian waltz.
Okay.
Right, and it expresses like a particular type of like sadness or longing or lacrimose. Yeah. It's super beautiful. You should listen to like some of those like elements because it's like the way that they flipped it to a happy song. That it's the same thing that hip hop does, right? Like
it recontextualizes it.
Exactly.
It freaks it. It freaks the sample that's so authentic to the sample, but then also makes it like, bro. So, and I think the call and response. Okay, so we're at like the most recent iteration of this call and response, and like these hip hop songs, like, which I think even that piece, Nas and Damian Marley, like that's a diaspora conversation.
Absolutely.
On its own, and then sampling from the Ethiopian community. Which is sampling from the African American community in jazz, which is then, and when we think about jazz moving even with the pentatonic scale, is taking from a very African understanding of.
You know the story about Mulatu and Sake?
Like, no, you want to break it down.
Right, so Mulatu, the way that Mulatu got basically became the father of modern Ethiopian jazz. She's playing jazz. And he plays vibraphone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He went to Berkeley School of Music.
Wow.
And like just brought that whole wave and like brought so many musicians.
When was it? How did he get to Boston?
Shoot, I don't know the details of the story, but I guess this must have been in the 70s.
Wow.
Right? But like,
so then, bro, so think about you have to get a visa for that.
Oh yeah.
And America in the 70s, the Civil Rights Bill and the Civil Rights Act opened up that immigration, bro. And the Civil Rights Bill and the Civil Rights Act was heavily influenced by the African American church. The African American church was heavily influenced by the Ethiopian church. And if you look back into the 1800s, the contextualization of what it means to be Black and a person of faith in America outside of Europe was like built upon the idea of the Queen of Sheba and these ideas of there being a free Black empire somewhere that had a relationship with the divine. And like, so like the amount of interplay is like, I don't know how far back you can be like, I don't know how far back the like racket or whatever the word in tennis is. You know what I mean? But that's beautiful, bro. And it goes into the future. So if you had the last thing, artists who you bumping right now? I always ask you this. And then what could this rally or back and forth call and response look like in the future? Musically and within the coffee shop.
Can I look?
Yeah, bro. I mean you said my man's got hella playlists.
I listen to so much music.
Yeah, bro. Specifically, like what you bumping, and then if you have any recommendations, because we're trying to interview some tastemakers in Ethiopia about this same topic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I've been listening to a lot of just like house, like disco type music.
Okay.
But there's this one like hip hop track by Fracture and Na Ito, I think is the name. It's called Shada Shada.
Okay.
And Na Ito is a female MC from from Nairobi. From Kenya.
Okay. Sheesh.
Filthy. Absolutely filthy. I think, like the other stuff that I've been listening to is like
we gotta add that to the playlist.
Yeah.
We're gonna add that to the anti-gentrification coffee club playlist.
I've been listening to I don't know, like just as I was saying, like I've been going back to these like super high BPMs.
Yeah.
Because that BPM is actually iconic for juke and footwork and bounce music, also out of Chicago and Detroit.
Yep.
Right. And so I've been making that's what the BPM I make my music in.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So a lot of my music is like super high energy.
Bro, I'm trying to tap in. We gotta get some down the playlist too.
Yeah.
You gotta come to a cipher, bro.
Yeah,
you gotta come to Friday. I know you're not gonna be here on Friday, but like,
yeah. But no, what was it called? Like, I'll send you one of my playlists.
We'll definitely
put you on. I don't know if you guys have heard that Machine Drum and Freddie Gibbs joint, Cane Train.
I don't. Freddie Gibbs is like, I have to sit down and listen to a whole project with him, and he drops a lot of projects to be as dope as he is. So sometimes I miss stuff because I'm like, I don't want to hear the single. I just want to tap into the whole piece.
Yeah.
But like, I need to check it out.
One other song that actually has me just like totally wrapped around his finger is the song is called "I Can Make You a Big Freak" by Paul Johnson.
Okay.
And it's Overnight Celebrity Flip.
Oh wow.
It's just
wow.
It's so
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bro, I gotta tap in, bro.
Absolutely.
This is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for coming. I told you we was going to try to get out of here in 30, 45 minutes, but we Black. So, we on CP time, 57 minutes right now or something, hour and 4 minutes. You know what I mean? But thank you so much for coming, bro. Where can people find out your music, follow what you're doing? You know?
Yeah, you can find me on mixcloud.com/HabibieBeats. You can find me on IG at Rmzi. You can find me on the internet everywhere at Rmzi, Twitter, etc. Hit my line. I'm also at Habibi Beats Radio on IG. We've got a show coming up on Friday, the 25th. So
where at?
It's gonna be at Crosstown at the Green Room.
This 20 is what? Yeah. Is it Saturday?
Yeah.
You be back in town?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On Saturday.
I'm gonna try to. I mean, I gotta check with the Queen, but if she say it's go time, then it's go time. That's fine.
That's gonna be a big one. That's a showcase specifically of like Black dance music. Right, so I'm super excited. We just got featured in We Are Memphis today.
Wow.
It's gonna be myself, DJ Chemist.
Chemist is dope too.
Super dope. Jess Jackson.
Chandler is dope too.
And then my homegirl Stephanie. She's from Nashville. It's her first time playing in Memphis.
Bro, I gotta slide.
And then we just announced JB Boyd, as our special guest.
Hey, Jared is the homie, bro, and like low key. When we were building our wave last year, like bro was on heavy. Yeah. I put him on the AeroPress. Bro was heavy with the AeroPress, heavy with the Gucci man. On the regular, bro. He plugged us with a lot of cool people in the Ethiopian community, actually in Oxford, who just to explore this intersection more. So
he and I went to high school together.
Yeah,
so shout out White Station, shout out the community, shout out to WYXR.
That's crazy.
Awesome things coming, man. For real.
That's crazy.
Oh, also my show. If you actually want to listen to my show. One, you can listen to the archives on wyxr.org/HabibieBeats. And then you can listen to my show on wyxr.org or 91.7 FM. And I'm Saturday 6 to 8.
Okay.
So right when you driving home, you're about to turn up a little bit before the club.
Before the club, that's it.
That's me.
That's
the
vibe.
The disco, you put take your shoes off, kind of pull the car over. There's gonna be some good music.
Dang, bro. This is beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. If you're watching live, thank you for kicking it with us. If you're watching the replay or listening on all the podcast places, you know what I mean? Appreciate your support. We go to Africa on the 14th, so we're getting ready. Last round of fundraising on the GoFundMe. I can't talk. I need some more coffee. Shout out to the Haitian community again. We're praying for y'all. They need to do right by Haiti. They've been getting wronged a long time, and family, we want to do something special, but I don't want to do performative stuff. We carry Haitian coffee all year, so I'm not into you know what I mean. And to be honest, if you buy this coffee, it doesn't support that community because he already sent me the invoice, and that community's already been paid, and the coffee's already here. But you can directly support a Haitian company that's super dope, who we get our Haitian coffee from, known as Javette Coffee and Tea, out of Nashville. Black brother doing amazing things. He's an MC too. So definitely check them out. Check out what's going on. And we appreciate y'all. Keep that coffee black. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.